Hey there guys, it's DMO73 back with this part of my set review for Moon Priestess Returns. This time we are covering Wind, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. So the ruler for this attribute is Liberator of Wind. At the beginning of the game, search your Magic Stone deck for a card, shuffle the rest of your deck, put that card on top of it. So you will start the game with the Magic Stone that you want every single freaking time. Want to make sure you always have Feasting? Done. There it is. You want to make sure you have that one specific special Magic Stone you want to start with? Ta-da! It's done. So that's pretty cool. I like that a lot. J-Activate is pay 1 colorless and 2 green, and then you flip her over into Shaharazad, the Teller of 1001 Stories. This card is, I think, so cool. Wanderer, 700, 800. Search your main deck for a card, put it in your hand. Any card! Search your main deck for any card and put it into your hand. And then activate, draw 2 cards if you have no cards in your hand. So, if you're top decking, before you do it, draw 2 and immediately recuperate your whole hand. So after making a huge play during one turn, you can just, and wasting all your hand, you can just, before your next draw, activate her, draw your 2 cards, and then get your draw for your draw phase. I think that's so cool. Plus the fact that you don't have to reveal the card that you search for because there's no specific target means that you can literally just pick anything and your opponent has to guess. That's gonna be really, really cool. So I'm really looking forward to that. Let's jump into the Resonators. We have, first up here, Alibaba, the Earnest Worker. 3-drop, 7/7, Story Human. Activate, draw a card if you have no cards in your hand. So in that same vein, you can tap him to recover cards if you don't have any. Not amazing, especially since Shaharazad lets you do that too, but if you're still trying to get mana with Shaharazad, then this is another way for you to recoup hand advantage. And a 700 is pretty awesome. We have Jin, the Spirit of the Lamp. It's a spirit resonator, 4-drop, 1k, 1k. Enter, remove up to 3 target resonators you control from the game, and at the end of the turn, bring them all back. So this is like your reset button. Think of it in the sense of if your opponent has a bunch of cards locked down, like Pied Piper of Hamelin, or different editions, or stuff like that, you play Jin, reset those 3 monsters, and stuff like that, and it lets you kind of recover from plays that your opponent might be doing to lock you down. That being said, this is probably only going to be a card you want to run like 2 of. But again, with Shaharazad being able to search for it, you search for it like immediately and then hold on to it until you need it. Like, that's pretty good. Then we have the Familiar of Holy Wind. This card, 1-drop, it's going to make it so that green has some draw engine still. Enter, 200, 200, draw a card. Just, bam, ta-da, I drew a card for just playing a card. And pay a green and banish Familiar of Holy Wind to deal 300 damage to something. So, yeah, that's pretty good, especially for just a 1-drop. Will be really good to help green against more aggressive decks, because you'll be able to play, maybe block with one of your other resonators, and then banish her, the Familiar of Holy Wind, to wreck one of their other ones. So this is definitely going to be a pretty important card for Wind, dealing with more aggressive matchups, as well as just having a draw engine outside of Gesture Cast. So that's pretty cool. Then we have a card we talked about in a spoiler, Feasting, the Magus of Wind. Elf, 6 Sage, 3-drop Wind Resonator. Quick cast, which means that you can summon her during your opponent's turn. Anytime you can play a spell chant instant, you can play her. So that's pretty cool. Enter, prevents all damage that would be dealt by target resonator until the end of the turn. So she's a way for you to save yourself if you need it. Your opponent's swinging in, or even just if you want to just get the body on board during your opponent's turn, wait for them to attack, you don't block, maybe they even invest a ton of stuff to try and pump up their damage, and then you just go, hey cool, Feasting, I'm not going to take any of that damage anyway, thanks for playing. And then her other activate ability is you can tap her to produce 1 will of any attribute. So she's also a Mana Stone, like Magic Stone. That's just This card is going to be really good for green. I was really happy to see this card come out. I'm looking forward to seeing what can be done with it. Plus she's an elf, so like elf decks get support, heck yeah. Morgiana, the Wise Servant. If you would draw a card in a phase other than the draw phase, you look at 3 cards in the top of your main deck, put one of them into your hand, put the rest of the bottom of your deck instead. So key thing to note, that this checks each time for each individual draw. So say you play Witch's Dagger. You don't draw 9 cards and pick 3, you draw 3, pick 1, draw 3, pick 1, draw 3, pick 1. Let's just be careful about that. Don't want anybody getting any game warnings by a judge for misplaying that. This is pretty cool because I mean, scrying in general is good. Green has a lot of draw power, and again, making sure that you get the cards that you need as opposed to drawing 4 absolute kickstones in a row is a good option. So I think this is going to be a really fun card to use. This is a pretty basic Rook, 1-drop 3/3 bird with flying. Nothing really else to say about that other than the fact that it's just a 1-drop beater, I guess, that has flying in an attribute other than red. Or blue. So that's pretty interesting. And then everybody's favorite card, Simbad, the Wind Rider Merchant. I know he's my favorite. 2-drop 6/6. Let's just talk about that. That is the best thing ever. It's better than Glinda in terms of strength. He takes 2, pure green, but who cares? You're probably playing a pure green deck anyway. So that's just awesome. And then Addition Resonator cards in your hand can have quick cast, which means you can play them at any time you would play an instant, so that's pretty broke. And then, similar to Morgiana, if at any point in time you would draw a card other than your draw phase, you can skip that draw, and then either deal 300 damage to something, give something plus 400 until the end of the turn, or destroy target addition. This card, dear heavens, this card is the best card I think I've ever seen. It's even better than Cheshire Cat. Putting it out there right now. Sinbad, so good. The options to do this, the options of addition removal. Oh good, I don't have to splash light for that. Deal damage to something. Oh good, I don't have to worry about dealing red with burn damage. Or giving something plus 400. That's so good. It's a lot of boost for just skipping a draw. And the thing is, just like Morgiana, he checks for every individual draw. So a Witch's Dagger could turn into give something 1200 until end of turn. Like, the plays here are so many, so vast, that it's going to be just nuts to see what Sinbad is going to do. Sinbad is definitely going to be the chaser super for this set. I definitely guarantee it. Not only is he powerful by himself, but all of these effects that he gives are just so good. I really can't wait to play around with this guy. A card that we don't have a picture of! Yay! This is Survivor of Heaven Castle. It's a Resonator, Ancient. Whenever he's blocked or is blocked, whenever he blocks or is blocked, he gets an extra 300 till the end of turn. So if your opponent's trying to block with it, suddenly he's a 7/7, or if you're trying to block with him, he becomes a 7/7. So pretty good defense card for wind decks to be able to use to stand up to those kind of bigger creatures. Then we have Wise Man of Winds, another elf. 2-drop, 800, enter, banish this card if you don't control another elf. So be sure to play an elf turn 1, pretty important. Or find a way to bring her in that doesn't require her enter ability. Ta-da! I think that's pretty standard in that sense. And plus a 2-drop, 8 for 6. Like, situational to bring her out in terms of the strength you need. But say you're playing against Abdul, and they J-activate. Cool. I don't want this enter effect anyway. Ta-da! So many cool things can be played with this, and it's definitely a support card that I think elves desperately needed. Moving on to the spells, we have Art of Simbad, 1-drop. Prevent the next damage that would be dealt by something. So Wind is getting a lot of that kind of keep itself safe, prevention of damage, countering kind of element, and Art of Simbad is just another one that does that. Pay 1, just prevent the next damage. Like, Mephistopheles is gonna swing in. Okay. That's really good. So yeah, I can't wait to use this card a lot as that situational card to keep myself safe. Also, I mean, it's dealt by, so like think about it in the sense of they play Duel of Truth, you train Art of Simbad. Your monster is not going to deal any damage because the card, the Resonator, is what's dealing damage, not Duel of Truth. So this card is really important for kind of countering those spell play tricks that we've seen a lot of people play around with. Exceed the Ancient Magic, aka counter anything ever. Cancel target spell. So anything that's being played, addition, resonator, spell, whatever, you can cancel it. It's one cost more than the other spells we've been seeing, but if you control Feasting, the magic of Holy Wind, not the stone, you get to draw a card. So costs one more, cancels anything, and much like Absolute Cake Zone, if you control Feasting, then you also get to draw a card. Let's just give green more counters. Like, I don't understand why we're doing this, but all I know is I love it, and I can't wait to play it. Open Sesame, spell Chant Standby. If you control Alibaba, search your main deck for 2 Resonators, put them in your hand. So, yeah, that's just, so good. Searching and consistency is so good. Play Alibaba early, play this card, or even better, play this card on turn 2, play your Alibaba turn 3, let it resolve, trigger Open Sesame, immediately search the 2 Resonators you want for next turn, like a Viana or a Sinbad. Like, so good. Just so good. I don't really know what to say other than that. Searching your deck for 2 Resonators. I mean, you have to reveal them, yeah, but it's a free +2, and it's any Resonator, so it can be any attribute you want. Like, that's just really good. And then here's the card that everyone is super worried about. Stories Told in 1001 Nights, Spell Chant instant. 3-drop, put target Resonator on top of its owner's deck, but if your J-Ruler is Liberator Wind of Shaharazad, remove from the game, search its controller's main deck, graveyard in hand, for all copies of it, and remove them from the game instead. Then that player shuffles his or her main deck. You get to be the one who searches, meaning that you immediately get to see the entire contents of your opponent's deck. Ta-da! I would be hard-pressed to say that anyone would allow you to take the time to write out the contents of that deck, because that would be like slow play / privileged information and who knows whatever. But still, being able to know exactly what your opponent's hand is as well as their deck, just that alone is making this card amazing. Plus, you get to just immediately remove all copies of it. So that is just great. But the thing I like about it is it only works that way if you have Liberator Wind of Shaharazad. So this is going to be a card that if you're switching rulers, you're going to side out of pretty fast. So as such, I don't think you're going to see someone running 4 copies of this. This is definitely like a 2 or a 3 copy. But then again, think about it, you can search for any card when you flip over Shaharazad, so flip for Stories Told in 1001 Nights, and then next turn make your big play. So like, there are a lot of ways to get around this, and with the scrying ability of green now, you don't really necessarily need to run 4 copies, so I think that's going to make this card pretty awesome in the regard that you don't have to run 4 and you'll still be able to hit it consistently. So, yeah. Then we have the Field Treasury item, Aladdin's Lamp. 2-drop wins. If you reveal your hand at the beginning of your main phase and don't have any spirits, search your deck for a spirit, reveal it, and put it into your hand. So, yeah, you get to put something from your deck into your hand once a turn as long as you don't have a spirit. Then shuffle your deck. I think this card would be better if we had more spirits right now, and so it'll surely get better as we get more of them. But for right now, I don't think this card is going to do a ton, simply because the main spirits I think we have are Tinkerbell, White Spirit, and Genie of the Lamp. So that's just nothing that you're not already going to be able to search for. Plus, the whole having to reveal your hand to your opponent is kind of not so great. So, yeah. Then we have the 2-drop edition field, Barrier Field. If damage would be dealt to you by a normal spell, prevent 200 of it. Hooray, anti-burn! Thunders are now 300. any deck that does damage to you through burn spells does less. It doesn't necessarily prevent any damage from like activate effects of additions or monsters, but it does help you prevent that extra like poke from your opponent's burn spells that could just push you over the edge. Imagine if you had 4 of these on board. You've completely negated Thunders. You've completely negated Dragon's King's Flame. This is definitely going to be a good side deck card for Green to have in his pocket in case it plays against a burn deck, which is going to be probably pretty prevalent next turn, set when this set drops. Then we have Flying Carpet, 1-drop. We have these 2 kind of additions that are meant to be played with Simbad. Flying Carpet, pay 1 green, enter, draw a card, and added Resonator gains flying. So with quick cast, that becomes, quickly make something a flying and draw a card, or skip the draw and pop something else with Simbad. That's kind of pretty much, that's the design of this card, that's what it's used for, as well as being able to just give something flying consistently is a good effect. And then Wind Dagger is like the addition version of the cat. Essentially, it's like the addition version of the familiar of Holy Wind. It pretty much has the exact same effect. It does have the exact same effect, except it's an addition instead. Wind Dagger, enter, draw a card, pay a green, banish it. This card deals 300 damage to something. So yeah, again, with use for Simbad, quickly attach it to something, draw a card or skip the draw, deal some damage, pay a green, immediately banish it, deal another 300 damage. So you could potentially deal 600 damage to something off of just 2 green will. So it can't burn players, but again, it's like Green has its own little mini Thunders then with this card to be used against Resonators. So again, spot removal for Green is never a bad thing. And it seems like a lot of cards this set for every color is some kind of spot removal. So Sinbad with cards like this is definitely that kind of thing. So that is it for the Green, the Wind part of NPR. So why don't you guys go ahead and click around to the annotations on the screen or down below to be taken to the other sections. And as always, guys, this is DMO73 signing off.